On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 operated as Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, prepared for departure from Kuala Lumpur International Airport. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members. A total of 239 souls embarking on what was expected to be a completely routine 6-hour overnight flight to Beijing, China. The aircraft was a modern marvel of engineering with an impeccable safety record. The pilots were experienced, the weather was clear, and everything proceeded as planned. Takeoff was smooth, the ascent was nominal. It was, in every sense, just another flight, one of thousands that crisscrossed the globe every single night without incident. But this flight was different. This flight would never reach its destination. It would, instead, fly into history as the most profound and baffling aviation mystery of the modern age. The plane and everyone on it simply vanished from the face of the earth, somewhere over the dark expanse of the South China Sea. Approximately 40 minutes after takeoff, the aircraft's transponder, the device that communicates its identity and altitude to air traffic control, suddenly and inexplicably went silent. One moment, Flight 370 was a predictable blip on a screen, proceeding along its designated flight path. The next, it was gone. Air traffic controllers in Malaysia and Vietnam tried desperately to re-establish contact, their calls echoing into an unnerving void. The final verbal communication from the cockpit, a calm and routine sign-off to Malaysian controllers, had been "Good night, Malaysian 370. These words, spoken without a hint of distress, would become the haunting last testament from a ghost flight. In the immediate aftermath, there was confusion, then disbelief, then a dawning global horror. A state-of-the-art passenger jet does not simply disappear, but this one did. What followed this chilling silence was the launch of the largest, most expensive, and most technologically advanced search operation in the history of aviation. An international coalition of nations, including Malaysia, China, Australia, and the United States, mobilized their resources. Dozens of military and civilian ships, along with a fleet of sophisticated surveillance aircraft, began to methodically scour the South China Sea, the initial search zone where the plane was last tracked. The search area would grow exponentially, eventually covering millions of square miles of unforgiving ocean. The effort would cost well over $150 million, a staggering sum dedicated to finding any trace, any clue, any answer. Yet, despite this unprecedented mobilization of human and technological power, they found almost nothing. The vast ocean, day after day, week after week, offered up only its own secrets, stubbornly refusing to yield those of MH370, while civilian radar lost the plane. Another, more covert form of surveillance had captured its ghostly journey: military primary radar, which does not rely on a transponder signal, had tracked an unidentified aircraft making a series of deliberate and shocking maneuvers. This phantom blip, believed by investigators to be MH370, executed a sharp, hard turn to the west, deviating completely from its northward path to Beijing. It then flew back across the Malaysian peninsula, an audacious and silent passage through a heavily monitored airspace. After crossing Malaysia, it turned again, this time heading northwest up the Strait of Malacca before making a final fateful turn to the south, out over the vast, empty expanse of the southern Indian Ocean. This was not the flight path of a crippled aircraft struggling with mechanical failure. These were precise, calculated turns, suggesting conscious control. The data was later corroborated by a revolutionary form of analysis involving faint, automated satellite pings, or handshakes, that the aircraft's systems continued to make with an Inmarsat satellite orbiting high above the Earth. These signals, transmitted hourly, even after all other communications had ceased, confirmed that the plane had remained powered and airborne for at least 7 more hours after it vanished from civilian radar. The final handshake placed the aircraft somewhere along a massive arc in the southern Indian Ocean, one of the most remote and inhospitable maritime environments on the planet. The data painted a chilling picture, a ghost flight flying for hours in complete silence, far from any commercial route until its fuel was finally exhausted and it plunged into the waves below. But the crucial question remained unanswered. Why? Catastrophic mechanical failure or an onboard fire could not adequately explain the deliberate course changes and the prolonged, silent flight. If it was a hijacking, no one ever came forward to claim responsibility. No demands were ever made. The mystery deepened when investigators examined the home flight simulator of the plane's captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah. On it, they discovered a deleted flight path that bore a disturbing resemblance to the one MH370 is believed to have taken, a simulated journey from Kuala Lumpur, heading south over the remote Indian Ocean until fuel exhaustion. While this was not conclusive proof, it added a dark and troubling layer of speculation to the investigation, pointing toward the unsettling possibility of human intervention. For years, the deep ocean held its secrets. The surface search yielded nothing but false hopes and dead ends. The focus then shifted from the surface to the abyss, initiating the largest and most complex underwater search in history. Led by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau, highly specialized vessels equipped with deep-sea autonomous underwater vehicles, 10 years have passed. A decade of questions, of theories, of grief. For the families of the 239 people on board, the passage of time has not brought closure, only a prolonged and agonizing state of uncertainty. They are trapped in a unique and cruel limbo, unable to mourn in the absence of truth. The world moved on, but for them, it is still March 8, 2014. The disappearance of MH370 has become a modern legend, a void in our collective understanding of the world, spawning countless theories ranging from the plausible to the fantastic. Was it an elaborate murder-suicide plot? A covert hijacking by a mysterious third party? A remote cyber hijacking that took control of the plane's systems? Did a sudden catastrophic event, like a cargo fire involving lithium-ion batteries, incapacitate the crew, leaving the plane to fly on autopilot as a ghost flight? Or does the truth lie in a direction so dark and complex that we have not yet dared to consider it? Without the plane, and more importantly, without its black boxes, these questions remain speculative, a fertile ground for conspiracy and debate. The 239 people who boarded that flight, men, women, and children from more than a dozen different nations, effectively vanished from existence. Their stories were cut short, their futures erased. 10 years later, we have pieces of a wing and a satellite data trail pointing to a lonely patch of ocean. We have more questions than when we started. We have no definitive answers, no accountability, and no final resting place for the victims. The greatest and most haunting aviation mystery of the 21st century remains unsolved. A silent testament to the 239 souls lost to the unknown.